afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the MCast Podcast. We are here on episode 4. I'm your host, Matthew Castaneda. And today, this time, we're going to be coming back to my home state, New Jersey, but this time a bit more locally. I am here with my next guest, Ryan Martinez. He is the mayor of Butler Township in the great state of New Jersey, and he's here with us today. Ryan, how you doing today?
Not too bad, Matt. Thanks for having me. And just to correct you, it's the Borough of Butler.
Butler, my mistake. It's like for anyone that doesn't live in New Jersey, there's a lot of townships and boroughs in the town. Like even for my town in Jersey, there's like a Chester Township and a Chester Borough, so it can easily get confusing, right? And there's a whole story behind that, but that'll take days to explain. But nonetheless, so Ryan, we've been good friends for a good while. We've known each other, of course, in political circles in New Jersey for the past few years or so, especially through Young Americans for Liberty, through my involvement there. But just tell everyone a bit more about, a bit about yourself. Who you are. What you're doing now, your past life experience. Just give us the rundown of who Ryan Martinez is.
Sure. My name is Ryan Martinez. I'm originally from Co-op City in the Bronx. I went to high school in upstate New York. Graduated from college, went to law school. I've been a practicing attorney since 2004, licensed in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Worked for various different firms during my career. Was always interested in politics, but early on, especially, work just took over my life. I really didn't have a lot of time to do much. As I got a little bit older and was able to get involved in more things, I was a lifelong Democrat since probably I was registered to vote at 18. But as time went on, I would say the Democratic Party's policies or the things that they promoted really didn't jive with what I believed. So I actually had switched affiliation to the Libertarian Party around 2017, 2018-ish, ran for Congress in the 11th District in 2018. And it was during that time where, as you know, Libertarians don't get a lot of press. They're not really invited to the table when it comes to debates or sad but true, yes. And I was lucky enough to get into a couple of debates during that time period. And when the debates were over, several people approached me afterwards and said, you did really well and you handled yourself pretty good. Maybe if you were with a political party like, one of the big ones, you might be able to do something. And to be honest, it hurt but they were right. I barely registered in the election because no one knew who I was and no one was getting any press, but I came over to the Republican Party. I got active very quickly, and in a couple of years time our mayor stepped down and the council voted. We have a 6-person council and they voted for me to be appointed as the mayor in November 2020.
No, that's fantastic, which I really want to touch upon because that's interesting. You basically went through 3 parties in a matter of a few years. So what caused that? What inspired you to be a Democrat in the first place? Were you one of those that just walked away where, the Democrat Party wasn't the party that you initially thought it was? What was going through your mind when you first switched parties?
It was upbringing mostly. I mean, growing up, my entire family and circle were Democrats. The Republicans were the ones that were, hated minorities and were only for the rich. So it's well, I don't believe in that. So obviously I'm a Democrat then, without really testing my views or really hearing any other opinions. When I started to look into a little bit more, I started listening to some of the conservative opinions and values, and I'm they got a point there. And I started challenging my own beliefs. I didn't know if I wanted to go to the Republican Party. I kind of found the Libertarian Party, read their platform, this is who I am. This is a freedom-based thing. Don't hurt anybody. Don't take their stuff. Non-aggression principle. I could get behind this.
Right.
The problem being, and you're aware of this too, and we've had this conversation, is they've been around for almost, 50 years now, and they don't seem to be making a dent in the political sphere.
Sadly, no. Yeah, no, for sure. So I guess at that point, of course, the typical libertarian mantras, fiscally conservative, socially liberal. Even now that, because obviously you switched over to the Republican Party now. What did you learn from running third party? I mean, of course, you touched upon how some of your interactions were, especially after debates. What was it like running a third party in a campaign for Congress? For context, he ran for New Jersey 11th Congressional District against Democrat Mikey Sherrill, who's the incumbent now, and current Assemblyman, but then Republican nominee Jay Weber. So How was that? Like, how was the dynamic? How was it working with fellow LP, LP activists at the time, and other activists and other people that are willing to support your campaign? What was that like?
That old saying, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around, doesn't make a noise. It was me yelling in the forest with no one around. There was not really a following or anything to really attach to. I mean, I had support of, the other LP people who were running. Like I ran on a ticket with Murray Sabrin. Murray and me are very good friends. I had a great time campaigning and running around with Murray. Some of the other people ran for Congress in the other districts I got along with well, but there really is no grassroots support. There's not really like any activities where they push their candidates because they really have a kind of like hands-off
Right.
philosophy. Like
It's
they
not a
don't.
strong foundation.
No, they don't. They don't fundraise. They don't get the word out. The people you're talking to, you're preaching to the choir. So it was difficult. I will say though that the experience. I mean, it showed me something about what it's like to run for Congress at a very low level. I became very friendly with Assemblyman Weber, and when I came over to the Republican Party, he kind of gave me. He was at the Republican Club meeting that I first went to because he makes the rounds and goes to all of them, and he kind of made a big deal of me. He was like, he kind of announced me to the room, like, listen, I debated this guy. This is a big get for you. He knows his stuff. And it gave me sort of like, everyone's looking like, okay, who's this? Who's this guy? And that kind of started, I just started doing more and more. We did more activities, more events. I was really, really active with them. And then it led to my current position, which honestly is the best thing I've ever had so far. I really enjoyed the job.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. That's something I was gonna ask too. Like, ever since you made the switch to Republican Party, I imagine, of course, you got directly involved straight away. Like, how was the reception? Like, how did people see you? Especially considering you're much more libertarian minded than someone like Jay Weber would be, or most Republicans in New Jersey. How well were you received when you switched over to the GOP?
I mean, I was received with open arms. That goes from the GOP chair, who's Laura Lee, welcomed me with open arms. My local Republican club opened the door for me and welcomed me in. They got me involved right away, and it's funny because it's not this. I feel like there's two factions right now in the GOP. There's the old guard, very conservative, that has those very starch conservative values. Then there's like the newer generation that's more libertarian minded, more
Yeah,
freedom based, whether it be medical freedom or some of them have a lot of things that they preach sound like libertarian values.
yeah.
But there is that split between them, and I feel like I'm kind of a bridge between both of them, honestly, because I get along very well with both of them, and I do like where both of them come on different issues.
Right, right, and that's what was going to be your next question because obviously, in order to really make any form of progress whatsoever, running as a Republican in New Jersey, have you found like I was going to ask like how you've been able to become that bridge, how you've been able to do that, to help you get yourself into your current position now as mayor of Butler, and of course getting yourself well connected within the NJGOP, like and especially now when it comes to the gubernatorial election, this past for this year. Currently, of course, the nominee now is former Assemblyman Jack Chiarelli. You publicly expressed your support for him. Ultimately, to be honest, I did as well. But to be honest, like there were valid criticisms of Chiarelli, of course, in terms of when it comes to freedom issues and issues that are more, I guess, more relevant, more important to libertarians. Uh, what would be your basis, right? Like, what was your case? What would be your case in terms of supporting Chiarelli over someone that's more liberty minded, like Hershing, especially when it came to marijuana legalization, decriminalization, something along the lines of that, and of course Phil Rizzo when it came to medical freedom, when it came to a bunch of other issues that a lot of Republicans could see as an overbearance of big government.
Yeah, I think Jack started very early. I mean, he announced what was that, January 2020, that he was running.
Yeah, very
He
early.
started out first. Yeah, he had the fundraising, he had the machine, if you will, behind him. I don't really have anything negative to say about either Phil Rizzo or Singh. I've spoken to both of them many times. There was a very contested. There were people that had their candidate and wouldn't bear listen about anything regarding the other two.
Yeah,
After the after the primary, there are people writing, "I'm going to write a candidate in," or "I'm not voting," which that makes no sense to me. I've kind of maintained from the get-go, look, I'm backing Jack. I think he's come a long way on some of his policies and positions. And I know others who have spoken to him that's kind of led him in the right direction. He's been saying the right things as of late. But from the get-go, I was like, listen, any one of those three guys who won the primary would be better than what we currently have.
Oh,
And
100%.
I was
100%.
and I was going to support them. So I don't understand why people just couldn't let it go. Like I didn't stick my finger in the eye of any of Rizzo or Singh supporters. I think they both ran very good campaigns. Phil started a little bit late. I think he might have even had more of a backing if he had started earlier. But we're here. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he has a place in New Jersey politics in the future. But Jack's a candidate. I think Jack is a good candidate, and I'm looking forward to seeing him win in November.
Yeah, no, absolutely, especially for any Republicans to make inroads in New Jersey. And New Jersey's always been interesting politically speaking because, of course, while in presidential elections, Congress and Senate, they've been very blue, they've been very safe Democrat. But when it came to gubernatorial elections, it seems to be almost the opposite. It became a swing state, technically, when it came to that. Of course, we've had prominent Republicans such as Thomas Kean Sr., Christine Todd Whitman, Donald DeFrancesco, and of course went back and forth with others like, of course, Corzine, now Phil Murphy. Like, do you understand? Like, do you know why that is the case? Because I've always seen it as like an anomaly. I always found that kind of interesting compared to the other elections that New Jersey gets involved in. Like I mentioned before, it's safe Democrat across the board. Why do you think there seems to be like a political shift or something, or like a different political climate when it comes to the gubernatorial elections?
No, it's a good question. You're right. It is strange. I mean, I think as we both know that no Democrat in the last 40 years has gotten a second term. It's always been a Republican afterwards, so that doesn't spell well for Murphy. However, I don't understand why the Assembly and the Senate has been pretty solidly Democrat the whole time. I'm concerned that too many people are giving just the governorship a look without realizing that without the Senate and the Assembly, it's just going to be a standstill.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen, which was kind of what Christie did for the 2 terms he was in. He was dealing with Democrat legislature and nothing really got done. He kind of just prevented certain things from happening. So you got to vote downstream too. A lot of people, and this happened even in local races, like, in the primary, we were unopposed, but there was a chance to vote. Like I'm just making these numbers up. I got like 300 votes, and then the councilman below me, like one got like 240, 230, 210. So it's like, did you not vote down the line, or you only went to vote for one specific person? Some people do that too. I really can't explain it, but obviously it happens. But no, it's a great question. I don't know why that seems to be this sort of weird thing. It kind of bounces back and forth at the governor level, but not at the local legislature level.
Yeah, which seems interesting because I remember even as far back as 2017, which Jack Chiarelli also ran at that time, but of course he came second in the primary to then Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno. I remember seeing like polls, and of course, as we've seen over the past few years, polls don't seem to mean as much as they used to, but I remember there was this one poll I read, I forgot what source it was, I believe it was like a local New Jersey poll, where a vast majority or a significant majority of voters in New Jersey stated that their number one issue is property taxes, right? Especially considering if you don't live in New Jersey has on average one of the biggest property tax liabilities of any state in the country. I mean, overall, we pay the most taxes of any citizen of any state in the country. In fact, I believe it was according to fee.org, there was an article that they posted out recently ranking all the 50 states, from 50th to 1st, from, lowest tax liability to highest tax liability over the course of a lifetime. And New Jersey, on average, was almost $1 million. I think it was like $940,000 or something that a New Jersey would pay in taxes over the course of their lifetime, which put them at number one, far above anyone else, even other deep blue states such as Massachusetts, New York, Rhode Island, you name it. There's literally no one that beats us when it comes to tax rates. Now, do you see this as like an issue that it can still really ring true with Democrats, especially those that are disaffiliated and really see a lot of issues with Phil Murphy's policies, really progressive policies when it comes to increasing taxes on businesses, increasing taxes on individuals, even though he says he wants to only specifically do it for the rich or the top 1%. Like, has there been any other Democrats that you've seen that have been disaffiliated like the way that you were a few years ago? Are you starting to see that here?
Well, definitely, but I don't think it's just Democrats. See, the problem that I see, and this is just one man's opinion, is if you ask anybody, regardless if they're unaffiliated or they're one of the parties, they'll say, yeah, property tax is too high. But then once you start giving the things you would have to do in order to reduce them, they don't like that. Like, as you alluded to when we started, like, we have, what is it, 565 municipalities in New Jersey, and
Something like
opposed
that.
to 600 and something like 600 school districts. So you have all of these different fire departments and police departments. A real smart move would be to consolidate some of them. That would bring
Yeah.
down a lot of costs. Nobody wants to do that. Even the residents of the city don't want. There's a lot of pushback. I know Princeton did it with Princeton Township not too long ago, but I think Chester tried doing it. That was shot down. There have been
Mhm.
other cities where it's like, look, you guys have less than 10,000 people. Let's consolidate these, but
Yeah.
people don't want to do that.
I remember Chris Christie did an initiative like that. I want to say like during his governorship. I want to say 2013, something along the lines of that. I know he was governor when he tried to put this plan to action. And with Chester itself and among other towns, it's like it's a whole battle over sewage, a whole battle over local stuff, and it just gets so convoluted and ridiculous. But of course, with you as the current incumbent mayor of Butler Borough, or the Borough of Butler in New Jersey, pardon me, what some things have you been able to accomplish as mayor? Like go with some of the principles that you've had or some of the actions that you've taken. Like how has the Borough of Butler changed, or have made a difference that you've made a difference ever since you were appointed as mayor?
Well, when I got appointed, we were still kind of in the middle of the pandemic, so there wasn't a lot going on in
Right.
the borough at the time. The one thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to be as visible and active as possible. I right away introduced myself to the town on social media. I went out as many places as you could because we were limited to let them know, look, I'm the new mayor. This is who I am. This is what I believe. And my personal thing is I've just tried to get as many people involved in the town as humanly possible, whether it be through the rec or the library or you name it, the economic development. I don't ask them what their affiliation is. I don't ask them what they believe. It's like, do you have an interest in making this town better? Okay, so let's do this. Bring your ideas. Bring me what you think this town is lacking. From us personally, there was two specific things everyone wanted. Everyone said, congratulations on becoming the mayor. When are you going to start building us parks? And when are you going to fix the downtown area? Well, we've already got the first park that we're going to be building. Hopefully soon we're going to start doing that behind our library slash Borough Hall.
Right.
There's another local park that we want to work on. That's coming second. Then we have a town pool slash rec area. That's next. When it comes to downtown, a lot of people, and you know this too, a lot of people just think like, the government can build that. It's just like, yeah, we'll just take some money and we'll fix all the
Right.
awnings and everything. I'm like, no, that's the worst way to do it. What we need here is someone who has money, financial backing, who has an interest in doing this because he'll do it smartly because it's his own money, and let them come with a plan. So we've been interviewing a couple of people who have interest in doing that. And they're going to come to us in the next few months, like kind of lay out their plans, their vision. They're going to have to work with, the landlords and the people that are in the town. We're not, we don't steal people's property. So we're not condemning, we're not taking by eminent domain. It's got to be voluntarily. That's a big deal with me. Like, we don't do things, we don't take. We encourage. So that's the two main things I'm doing. Other than that, I've just tried to make the town a fun place. The first month after getting appointed, like my wife and me did the holiday light contest where, there was like 100 families that participated. It was just fun seeing, even in the middle of the pandemic, a bunch of families running around with clipboards, figuring out, who they want to vote for. That was a great thing. We did a book drive in February. We got almost like 14,000 books. And one of the guys, I know you know David Cypher. He was a part of your first episode. He helped us out with that as well. Yeah. Dude, we're starting a town-wide workout initiative in July. We have like 7 local, martial arts, gym, what have you. They're going to post workouts every day for the town to do. I'm just trying to do as much as humanly possible to make it a fun place. The other stuff will take care of itself. People will come with ideas and they'll start, because now they know that their opinions are being listened to. So they're starting to step up, and that's what makes towns great, is the people. It's not the mayor or the council. It's the people involved.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And that was going to kind of lead to my next question, because obviously, given the political climate these days and how hyper-partisan both parties have been over the past few years, when it comes to mayorship, right? When it comes to of course, being the head executive of the town, has the voter reception or the reception of the people there, like, have they really taken into account or really care about what your party registration is, or do they put that aside and look, okay, he's really helping out the community, he's really taking a lot of action straight away as in the township, even if I was just saying as a random person, even if I was a registered Democrat, I still respect the mayor for really making an impact in the town, really making it a nice, safe, and comforting community. Where you can, of course, establish great relationships with people there. We feel safe and welcome in the town. Like, how has that been? Like, has the mayoralship in the borough of Butler been able to transcend the current partisan political climate?
Yeah, I would say in the past it was a little more adversarial with the opposing parties. Me, I've taken a different approach because again, when my entire philosophy is I'm not going to bother you as long as you're not hurting anyone or taking their stuff.
Right.
It's really hard to argue with that. So it doesn't matter what you believe. You believe in X, okay, great. It's not hurting anyone. Fantastic. You can do that. I'm not going to stop it. I'm not pushing my views on you. You might not even know what my views are. I'm just never going to bother you. Another thing that we did was we created a Butler directory. Didn't have one. So it was a way to sort of advertise all of our businesses for free. And I talked to a bunch of them and they all started picking my brain. And I said, listen, they're like, do you have a business background? I'm like, I don't need a business background. The only thing I need to know is that you're better at running your business than I am. And I'm going to leave you alone. And you would see that their mouths like wide open and gaped. I don't think that anyone's ever said that to them. That's a politician. I'm like, yeah, like free markets. I'm leaving you alone. Same thing with anyone that has approached me about, fundraising for a park or doing some sort of event. I don't ask what your political affiliation is. We have a vested interest in making the town a better place. So there's no reason to even bring politics into this.
Right. No, that's perfect. And especially considering that, and since you've been taking more of a pragmatic approach and really not, saying, oh, I'm a conservative Republican, vote for me just because of that. It seems to really be working. And of course, rare case of, like I said, an exception to the hyper-partisan climate. Do you plan to take that to like the next level anytime soon? Have you thought about running for higher office, in the near future, or run for re-election as mayor? Like what are your plans for politics in the future?
Well, initially, I have a vested interest in Butler. So like I have a special election I have to run in this November, and I'll be running again next year for the 4-year term. My focus is on Butler right now. Whether I become a congressman or a senator or president of the United States in the future, sure, I would love it, but it's just not in my immediate plans right now. Right now, I am like laser focused on Butler and just pushing the message of liberty. Another thing that I am doing is, this month was Pride Month. We issued a proclamation, which a lot of towns do. We got some flag because people wanted the Pride flag put up. We don't put up any other flags other than the United States flag, the state flag, and the POW flag. A couple had approached me about that. I said, I'll do you one even better. I promise you that I will never suggest, support, or sign any law that says that same-sex couples can't live the life that they see fit.
Right.
That's a much better deal than putting a pride flag up, right? And they have to admit yes. So right now, I just want to spread that message not only in my town, in my neighboring towns, and across the state. We should all be promoting freedom. Keep your views are your views. You're allowed to have them. Just don't force them on anyone else. I think that if we did that at the state level, at the federal level, this would be a much better, less polarizing country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was definitely going to ask this. I mean, I definitely have my own thoughts on this, but the role of I guess liberty-minded to libertarian-leaning types of Republicans, because like you and I would definitely lean more in like the Ron Paul circles than like let's say your Mitt Romneys or your Liz Cheneys. Do you see the New Jersey Republican Party or the conservative movement in New Jersey heading towards that direction, or do you see them, heading more of like a populist or back to the traditional Bush era type of conservatism? Like, where do you see the direction of the NJGOP heading?
It's kind of funny, because again, just my opinion from the conversations you have at the events and parties, there seems to be this split. There seems to be that old, never Trump conservative party. Then there's like the kind of like the MAGA Trump followers. Then there's the more libertarian freedom people. There is some overlap between the Trumpers and the liberty-minded people. Yeah, but there is a definite split, and we just need to kind of get on the same page. I feel like there should be more libertarians in the Republican Party. There's a lot of libertarians I think would make great politicians. Larry Sharp comes to mind.
Yes.
Just right off the top of my head. He's in the same realm of like a Thomas Massey or a Rand Paul that I think would definitely get some stuff done if they were in the Republican Party. But it's a slow march. And I just think it's just going to take some time. And the more you keep saying it, the more you can. I practice what I preach. I'm very I believe my own hustle, and I'm just promoting it as much as possible.
Yeah,
I think
you're walking the talk.
exactly, and the more you keep doing that, I think people like start believing it, and they'll follow it because it's like we have all our services, we have a good town, our schools are run good, the town's run well, and this guy really does leave us alone. He really practices the way he preach, and that's the way we just have to keep heading.
Yeah.
That's the new guard is eventually going to take over, and that's the way I think to do it is just keep pushing that liberty narrative.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely perfect. It's 100% spot on, and I know you and I are gonna be looking to play huge roles in that within the New Jersey Republican Party for years to come, for sure. Again, thank you so much for coming on, Ryan. It's definitely been a great conversation. Definitely, learned a lot about you and how you've been able to, of course, handle yourself and really rise yourself up within local New Jersey politics. So I really thank you for that. Your mayoralship currently really sets an example of what liberty-minded legislators can do, especially if they can transcend party lines and look past, we should screw the two-party system just because we don't agree with anyone on them. Which again, like there's a point to that, and of course, it's very important to stand on principles. But at the end of the day, you really owe it to your ideas to win. I believe it was what was his name? Morton Blackwell, he was the founder of Leadership Institute. He said something along the lines of that. I mean, granted, it was about traditional conservatism at the time, but it also applies very well to, the right-leaning libertarian circles, that you're starting to see, especially in the upcoming younger generations, the Gen Z generation, especially within the Republican Party. So this is definitely something we need to do moving forward. And, again, I really appreciate you being on today.
Thanks for having me. Let's keep pressing along and treating everyone as individuals and Americans. And stop divvying everyone up between ideologies, race, sex, etc. It's not going to get us anywhere.
Amen. Yeah. Again, thank you guys for listening. The MCast is available. Like follow the MCast on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, you name it. We also we're also on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, RSS feed. All the links are going to be in the description below. And if you're interested in becoming a guest speaker on the podcast, just like Ryan Martinez here, please email me at the mcastshow@gmail.com. I'll send you over a form so we can figure out what you want to discuss on an upcoming episode. And thank you so much for your time.
Thanks again, man. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Of course.